So the cat and I would like to welcome you, Emily, all the way from England. Hello.
Hello.
It's so wonderful to have you as part of Ain't the Archies. It's lovely to have your, don't bite me, to have your portrait that you did of Sue Stone, Woman with Fish, up on the wall. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for asking. It was lovely. Lovely to get that email.
We'd like to know a little bit about you. Would you like to tell us a bit about you and your artwork?
Okay. Okay, you can see a few examples behind me. I do a mixture of portrait work and wildlife, and it's all hand stitched on a variety of different materials. So these ones are all fabric and like the Sue Stone portrait, but I also work with plastic and wallpapers, whatever I can get my hands on, really. I've mainly started off as portraits as my main theme. Before that I was a portrait painter, and so it was a natural kind of transition to me. And then the wildlife came in a few years after, and now I've kind of started combining the two subjects as well, either physically through the stitching or even with materials like in Sue's portrait.
So you're a forager, are you?
Well, I kind of, I like to go around a lot of charity shops. I use a lot of my old clothes as well. And people give me a lot of materials and things that either they've inquired from their nan or something like that, and threads, which is great because then you get some lovely colours that you can't get anymore. But then I've become a little bit too precious about them. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I buy fabrics if I need them need a certain theme, but I try not to really. I try to recycle as much as possible. So the wallpapers that I use are leftovers, and I've just bought a really lovely sample wallpaper of Laura Ashley's. That was 50p in a charity shop. I mean, it's amazing.
I think we all love op shops.
Yes. Yes, I can spend a lot of time in there just kind of foraging through. You never know what you're going to find.
Now, you chose Sue Stone, and you've called your piece Woman with a Fish. Can you talk to us about why you chose Sue?
So when I got the brief, I wanted to pick someone that I could combine our two styles of work. And I knew of Sue's work, and the way that she does the very kind of simple running stitch to get in the details of the face really reminded me of my very early pieces where my work was quite minimal at the start, and I would put brown little outlines of parts of the face. So it kind of, I felt quite connected to her style, and I knew luckily that I was going to be meeting her later in the year. So I had a good opportunity then to speak to her, to ask permission, because I always get permission from all the people that I use. And I was going to be actually seeing her work for the first time in the flesh. So then I knew I was going to get a really good kind of experience of actually kind of probably kind of almost pulling apart with my eyes her work and how that could really kind of connect in with mine. And then the title Woman with a Fish is because obviously online she's known as Woman and the Fish, and the connections that the fish that she subtly puts in a lot of her work. I didn't go quite so subtle, but so that it just played really nicely for me. And then I was lucky to find that the background fish pattern fabric is actually called North Sea Fish, so then it fitted with the geography of her life. And I just really liked the fact that it was a black and white fabric against the orangey red glasses and the clothing that she'd sent over to me in the photos. So it just kind of fell really nicely together.
Yes, it sings. Did you show your progress to Sue along the way?
No, I didn't show the progress. I showed her, I mean, she sent me numerous different photos. She said, use whatever. And some of them were really nice, interesting poses. So the one of her looking up just felt like that had to be one. And I just showed her at the end how, you know, where I felt that it was finished, and then I wasn't going to do anything until I got her feedback. And yeah, she was really pleased with what I did. You know, she knew of my work, and so knew that it was going to be quite fragmented, but I wasn't even sure when I was stitching it what the balance was going to be of my work with her work, and if I was going to have to put like another kind of layer of fabric underneath her stitching to make that stand out more. But actually it worked really nicely onto the Hessian background fabric that I used. So and I kept it brown to kind of fit in with her, well, both of our works really. Yeah, so it was just a lovely pops of colour from her clothing and glasses, and just those two kind of main fragments of my stitching, and then the rest made up of hers. So it was I like to work quite naturally. I have a rough idea, but I just go with what feels right when I'm making the work.
Because you paint with your thread, don't you?
Yeah, that's how I call it, although it's very much like drawing really. It feels very much like using colouring pencils. I'm quite I don't want to say a messy artist, but I'm quite a scribbler really. If I'm drawing, I'm not very neat. Same with painting really, I'm not a very neat painter. But I have a better control with the stitching, so it kind of has more of it has quite a painterly feel. I think as I'm kind of evolving more, it's getting more painterly as well actually with the stitching, and a bit less drawing like my early style.
And Emily, what is it about faces that intrigues you?
Oh, I just love them because they're all so different. So whenever I'm out, I'm allowed out now. So just taking in everybody's faces again, and I just love those fine details. Even it's just like the patterns in someone's eye. You know, I have little splodges of brown in my blue eyes, and then some people can have really interesting, quite pale outer bits, and then people's expressions, just how it can change very quickly and things. And yeah, I just like the challenge of trying to recreate them. And it's that kind of, again, a hint of the lightness, but I really love trying to get that kind of the coloration of the skin really. Although I kind of have a palette that I tend to use, I go more to, but I do love the fact that you have to make these subtle changes for each person that you use, and that especially because I tend to work from a photograph. Either I take the photograph or they send it to me. Sometimes I really zoom in to the photograph, and then you can pick out these other colours you might not necessarily see with your eyes straight away. So I kind of get quite fixated in those little marks that you get. So I spend a lot of time really up close to people's skin, which is a bit more better in the photograph than in the flesh. So yeah, that's it really. It's just fascinating. I'm quite into the whole. I read a lot about medical things, and I just find it we're just quite amazing creatures, really, aren't we? How we all function and things. So yeah, the skin's just a big part of that for me.
So I imagine finding those secret little colours draws us in to make us look closer at the work that you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I probably make them a bit less subtle, because I'll maybe just do a slightly bolder fleck, so then I feel that I know it's definitely there. But I hope that some people might then kind of go, oh, that's an interesting colour to have put in someone's face, and then maybe they will look themselves at possibly other, at a photograph or someone else's face. You never know. But yeah, I like to try and make sure I know I've definitely put those marks in. So you might get quite a bold corally pink in a cheek area, because actually sometimes if you put too much of the colour, it might overtake the whole face. So sometimes I pair certain colours down and just put just one bold kind of mark in there.
I'm very intrigued as to the artwork on your right.
Yes.
Yes.
This one?
Is that
Yeah.
yes? Can you just show us that and talk a bit about that piece? I know it's not Sue's piece, but I'm intrigued.
No, this is my brother.
Right.
This is my brother. My brother's appeared quite a lot in my artwork. He's a ready model for me. And I'd had this idea for quite a long time. I wanted someone that had a big beard, and I'd wanted to do this idea about nature crawling over kind of mankind. And actually, a friend of mine had got a really good beard, but I didn't get a chance of going and seeing him. And my brother only lives about a few minutes away from me and had grown his beard. So I wanted to, we had a big discussion because I knew there's certain bits of wildlife he wouldn't want on his face because he's a bit scared. He'll hate me for saying that, but I always say it. And there's little kind of still in jokes with both of us with certain things that are in here as well. But they range. So I've got things like fungi in the beard. I've got scarlet pimpernel, forget-me-nots, daisies in the beard as well. We've got a crested tit, some ladybirds, got a cinnabar moth, dragonflies, ivy, bees. There's a little mouse peeping through as well, a slug there as well. But I didn't want the face to be as stitched in as I would normally in detail. I wasn't really sure how much I was going to do, and I worked slightly differently. I normally start with the eye area, but I actually worked my way down. So I'd done a very rough drawing, and I didn't know what I was going to put in the beard until I got to the beard. So I started off with the hair and then worked my way down the face and then put the top in just before I finished the edges. And yeah, so it's about the comment really of our relationship with the world around us and that fine balance. And that's why parts of the face are hidden, have been taken away because it's too imbalanced and trying to get a reorder. And the fact that we have to live alongside each other, so hence the wildlife in the beard. And it's
That's all
quite
stitched, Emily. It's all stitched.
it's all stitched,
Wow.
yeah. And then I've just put in a piece of like a mesh fabric for the top, so it's quite see-through really, but it's enough of a blue color to give it a presence.
Thank you so much for showing us that. Well, it's an absolute delight to meet you, and thank you so very much for being part of this show, Emily.
Oh, thank you. It's lovely to finally meet you. Yeah, I've looked online at the other pieces. It's a fantastic show. It's such a shame that I can't be there to actually view in the flesh, but hopefully soon we'll be all able to travel again. And yeah, I've been lucky. This past week I've been able to actually go to a gallery and see art, and it's such a wonderful experience to actually do that in the flesh. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that people will be able to do that soon.
Wonderful. We look forward to seeing you in Australia when we all open up again.
Oh, I'm looking forward to coming.